I'm about community, learning, discussion, respect, integrity, truth, science, and discovery. Welcome to my Paranormal Soapbox. Hello, and welcome to my Paranormal Soapbox. I am your friendly neighborhood ghost hunter, Justin Brown, and we have episode 17, I believe. If I mess that up, I'm fail. But we're going to talk about the legitimacy of instrumental transcommunication, universally known as ITC. And there's a lot going on with that subject matter, and there's a lot to talk about. Before we do that, we will bring over our beautiful and talented co-hosts and chat moderators, Jessica Bias and Missy Vastine. How are you guys tonight?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. I'm feeling better. My back's been a lot better. I've been in the gym. I've been on a diet. I feel great. I got a haircut. Feeling good. What about you guys? Jessica?
I am doing wonderful.
Don't lie, you said you were stressed.
I know, but good stress though. Good stress. I'm all good.
That's right, she was securing hotel rooms for the Mothman Festival, which is very important, so we can stay out, party like it's 1999, and then crash. Are you excited about that?
I am. I was just telling Christy that. I am very, very excited. And I get to meet her.
You haven't met Christy?
I haven't seen her in person. I've all through Facebook and talk on the phone.
You guys can touch.
I mean, it's like we know. Oh, Justin Brown.
I'm sorry. You will shake hands like men. All right, guys, you know the drill. If you have any questions regarding the topic of the show, or any question for me at all, or Jessica and Missy, hell, talk to them too. They're people. But comments, we'll read out comments, and we will shout out people. I already see Derek, Danette, Christy, Truth Paranormal, Bill Davis, Daniel Everson, Annette Abbott. Who else do we got here? Haunted Life, Bozer33. As always, thanks you guys for tuning in. It is awesome that we have a really cool paranormal community growing here. So you guys know the drill. We will check back in with Missy on Facebook and Jessica on YouTube with getting your comments and questions read. But in the meantime, I will check back with you and we will get this show on the road. All right, guys. ITC, is it legit? Well, that's a good question. If you would ask me, I would say that there is definitely something worth researching and looking into. But what is bad about it is there is so much baloney, so much non-legitimate things happening with ITC that gives real ITC research a bad name. Okay, but let's not go there yet. Let's start with what ITC is. It's instrumental transcommunication. Okay, what is that? Well, the most commonly accepted term for that is using some kind of electronic device to communicate directly with the dead, a two-way communication. But that doesn't mean that you can't use crystal balls. It means there's some people that use bowls of water. There's some people to use smoke. There's some people to use dowsing rods, pendulums. All that stuff falls under ITC. You're contacting, communicating with the dead. So there is a lot of stuff that's paranormal under that ITC umbrella, and we're going to talk about some of those things so we know what we're actually talking about, what's legit, what I think is legit, what I think is not legit. Okay, ITC has a history. Okay, before electronics and the age of that type of technology came along, there was a lot of malarkey. Okay, there was a lot of mediums, spiritual mediums, and psychics that were busted. Of course, I do believe that some people do have an ability to contact intelligences and entities that are not present in the flesh. I believe that it's limited in most, and okay and very few. And there is nobody out there that I have been convinced of that can just straight up talk to somebody who's been dead, or that's an alien, or that's some type of inhuman entity. It's just, there's no evidence for it. And despite what you believe, that's what I am searching for, and that's what the mainstream is searching for: evidence and legitimacy, right? So not until the early 1900s did ITC start forming. And what's interesting about the history of this subject matter is the person who really started doing it. Okay, there was a Catholic priest that I researched. Okay, his name is Robert Landell, and he was an inventor. In the early 1900s, there's a place like Thomas Edison and Nikola Tesla and other inventors that were coming up with stuff, and they were hearing voices that seemed anomalous over their apparatuses and equipment. So they believed that there were either aliens or ghosts or something else that they could not explain. And what's interesting is this priest started, publicizing that he was talking to the dead, allegedly, through this little invention he made, this little box. And that's very interesting to me, because my research over Catholicism, when it comes to its interaction and dealings into the paranormal, is very interesting. Not only do we have exorcisms, but we have an openness to accepting a large spectrum of paranormal phenomena as existing and dealing with it. So that's interesting to me. But in the 1920s, we started, getting the Thomas Edisons and the Nikola Teslas involved. And Thomas Edison was never proven to have a device or a telephone to talk to the dead, but he was quoted saying that, if there is a device so sensitive, and so delicate out there that are able to make recordings, maybe we can speak to the dead with them. Maybe we can develop devices that can do that, because Edison's parents, if I'm not mistaken, were spiritualists, and he come from a background of spiritualism. So that's interesting, right? 1925, this article says Brazilian Oscar de Argonal communicates with the dead via telephone. So you have telephones from the very forefront that seemed to be the most prominent device people were getting voices from and talking to the other side with. 1949, an old vacuum tube radio is used to record spirit voices by Marcello Bassi, however you pronounce that. So we're starting to get radios involved in the middle 1900s. Okay. Spirit voice of Father Gemelli's dad was heard speaking to him through a magnetophone while recording music in 1952. 1959, the Swedish father of electronic voice phenomenon known as EVP, Fredrik Jurgensen, recorded a male voice and his mother's voice speaking to him while recording bird songs in the wild. And this one's famous because EVP, it just now started to grow and formulate into this phenomena that's kind of, got a stamp on it. And it's, electronic voice phenomena, right? So in 1967, we got Latvian psychologist Dr. Konstantin Radiv studied Jurgensen's methods, eventually recording tens of thousands of voices in laboratory-like setting. He used I believe he's the one who used the germanium diode. And it's pretty much this microphone that only picks up on magnetic frequencies and radio frequencies and doesn't record any ambient noise. Please feel free to research all this stuff. Okay? I'm just briefly, skimming the surface through here. Let's see. Pi Records blocks out all radio and television communication frequencies and records Konstantin Radiv in studio by tape recorder. So even after Radiv dies, there's still people claiming to contact him. In 1979, this is an interesting piece of ITC history. The Spiritcom is developed by George Meek and Bill O'Neill. 4 years later, over 20 hours of recordings containing the voice of deceased NASA scientist Dr. Mueller, as well as schematics to communication device, were made available to the world. What's interesting about the spirit calm I'll talk about real quick is no one was able to replicate the results from this guy. So that is, I'm skeptical about that. There's a lot of people believe that he was a very skilled ventriloquist. 84, Ken Webster receives over 200 messages over his computer by spirit named Thomas Harden, who was a former resident of his house in the 1500s. The messages were typed onto the screen by the spirit. So now the computer age has come in and ghosts are coming across the computers. Okay, in 1980s and 90s, EVP is experimented with exclusively by many people. Experiments with varying methods continue, such as using water, computers, white and pink noise, and more recorded voices. Stefan Bayan in 2000 offers EVP Maker as a free software. 2002, Frank Sumption conceives of the idea to build Frank's Box as a way to use bits and white noise for spirits and ghosts to formulate words through the device. So there's the spirit box. I do want to mention that people were sitting a video camera up in front of a TV and recording nothing into a video loop, and they were, allegedly getting faces that come across. This form of communication, whether it be through mirrors, smoke, water, video looping, is not actually a voice phenomena. It's not all considered voice phenomena when you do ITC, but a lot of people like to categorize ITC just with voice phenomena. Okay, so that's, those types of television and water and smoke and stuff, that's like a subset of ITC that's really not accepted widely. So here we are from 2007 on, we are like got the Shack Hack, sprouted out all these other things like the SB7 that Gary Golka developed, and here we are using radios as the primary source. And before we get into the comments and questions, I want to know what you think. Do you research ITC? If so, what do you do? Do you just strictly do EVP sessions? Do you use radios? Do you use white noise? Do you use pendulums, dowsing rods? I want to know what you guys use and why you think it's legit. But before we get to that, I started discovering that white noise was interesting. I did do extensive ghost box research and EVP research, and that's what I try to specialize in, even though there's really no specialization or experts out there, right? But I found out that, me personally, the ITC field and spirit box community are very susceptible to audio pareidolia, and I think the people who are trying to legitimize it are getting kind of pushed under, swept under the rug, because no one wants to sit and listen to nothing for hours and have nothing to publish, because I believe that real ITC voice phenomena responses are extremely rare and hard to record. So that doesn't make for interesting videos with a lot of views. That don't, that means that you don't get to go to your favorite haunt and pick up all these voices and have all the fun, doing that. There's some type of, how should we say, impatience with a lot of people in the research field who just want, immediate satisfaction. Okay. So that immediate feedback that they get from what I like to call false positive machines is what's destroying the paranormal, in my opinion. And that's not what legitimizes the research. Okay. And I don't mean to offend anybody. I don't say, I am an expert and, what I say is God's word, as some people would say. But let's face it, guys. We want to know objectively how we can prove these things exist. And I have talked about this in length, my setups that I use. If you have any questions and want me to answer in detail about what Interface Death and I personally do, then you can email me at justinbrown@interfacedeath.net or message my blog page. There's a million different ways. Just go to interfacedeath.net and contact me, and I will answer all those questions. And all of our research methods are on our website. But I want to know what you guys use and what you guys think. We're going to go back to the girls, and we're going to start with Missy. I know The viewership is kind of split between Facebook and YouTube tonight, it seems like. So, any questions or comments about what they use or how legitimate do they think the ITC field is?
Daniel Everson said they use a tape recorder and they work awesome.
Quick things real quick that I'll say about tape recorders. A lot of people believe that the analog tape, since it's you imprint the audio on it magnetically, that's why they think it's better to use. And I like that theory. There's a lot. I've even heard Grant Wilson say on interviews and on vlogs that he'll just stick a tape, with, not even in a recorder, and he'll put it somewhere and see if he can just get an imprinted voice. I've never seen that happen. Never seen anybody claim or publish those types of things. But there's some pros and cons to that we can get into if you want. Go ahead.
Annette Abbott said, I use an SB7 digital recorders, and in my studio, one often validates the other.
That's cool.
Daniel said, I love my SB7.
That's a very popular device. I have used it a lot. I've researched it a lot.
That's about all I got for right now.
Of course, Paul Browning is not a fan of broken radios. Me and Paul's talked about this, and we agree that audio pareidolia with just using a endless stream and looping stream of radio snippets is a perfect brewing pot for audio pareidolia, and there's no way to legitimize or validate that these responses are in fact what they say they are. Now, there is a lot of insanely coincidental responses that I heard that could be in fact something manipulating the radio, the RF, but there's no way to prove it unless you do certain things, in my opinion. Missy?
Yes.
Anything else? You said no?
Well, I just got Annette said the white noise of the SB7 is annoying. She'd like to find another tool to use.
Yes, that is a very widely reported con to it. Jessica.
Okay, I don't know if you touched base on this or not. Haunted in Life said, do you think a lot of what we hear is audio paranoia?
Pareidolia? Yes, I do believe that. The mind is designed to make sense of things they don't that they're hearing that they don't quite understand or that are incoherent. Okay, it's the same thing with your eyes. Ink blot test, for example. The psychiatrist shows you and asks you what you see, and your brain will try to make sense of the image, and based on what you report to him will give the psychiatrist information about how your brain works. Okay, the clouds. Same thing with hearing. You can hear voice lyrics from songs, okay, and hear things differently than what the lyrics actually are that are said. That's an example of audio pareidolia. So if you're just jumbling, like the Echo Vox, for example, if you're just jumbling words and phonetics together, I mean, words are made of phonetics. So if you jumble enough phonetics together, of course you're going to get words out them, because words are made out of phonetics. So, yes.
Okay, Truth Paranormal said, excuse me, mainly deal with digital recorders when it comes to EVP. The Paraholic said, I use all box made by the movers and shakers in ITC. I'm 100% anti-Huff and ITC app.
Yes, Paraholics is Matthew Jackson, by the way, if you didn't know. He's a Patreon supporter and a really super cool guy. He uses several boxes. One of them that's interesting is the GeoBox. It works a little differently than most of your ITC devices, okay? There is a lot of faith-based going on in those types of ITC research fields. I do agree with, the whole paranormal movement dealing with Steve Huff. I think there's a lot of people swept up in that, and they got on board that wagon and that train, and they just, steamed on until into the horizon with that, and they're just taking everything at face value. They're not trying to question everything and take the proper steps to decide or determine if what they're dealing with is legitimate. Um, of course, people like Matt Jackson. He is not publishing stuff that he feels that is 100% refutable evidence. He just likes people to view his work with an open mind, and but at the same time with an amount of skepticism that's appropriate. It's research. If you put it out as research and allow it to be peer reviewed, I think that you have a decent stance. Go ahead with the rest.
Okay, Christy asks, how accurate do you think the dowsing rods are? Aren't they used mainly to detect water?
They are used to detect water. I don't know about mainly. They're used to detect all kinds of things. People douse for all kinds of things. I've seen them douse for treasure. I've seen them douse for dead bodies. All kinds of things. I don't believe dowsing, for the most part, is legitimate. The ideomotor effect has a lot to do with it, and I've seen blind experiments where people get blindfolded and asked to perform the dowsing, and there's like hardly no results that say that they can detect things with the dowsing rods above statistical chance. But with that being said, I've seen my mother, who I think is very legitimate metaphysicist, use dowsing rods to do things. A lot of things I believe a lot of legitimate metaphysicists do, and ITC people do, aren't always right. So it's a gray area of legitimacy. I'm going to say that when it comes to dowsing rods.
I think that was the last question.
Okay, Paul Browning's got a question, Missy, that I want you to address, and if there's any others, go ahead.
He said the big question is, if you can record EVP using a handheld recorder, why bother with radio? Adding a ton of distracting, interpretive, additional electronic fog, again, seems counterproductive.
You're right, Paul, but the reason is why I stated before. They don't want to sit for a year trying to get something on the recorder that they find anomalous. The spirit box is going to spew out all this stuff, and they have immediate feedback that they want. They're very impatient, so that's why people bother with it. Doesn't mean it's right.
That's all I got for now.
All right, guys, keep the questions coming. I like this conversation. I like this engagement. I want you guys to understand where I'm coming from. I want to understand where you're coming from. I think the best thing to do right now on this platform and forum is to say, research is about not knowing what's going on, but trying to know. Okay? So what's the best way we can try to know something? Is being objective and questioning your results and allowing them to be peer reviewed. Okay? Has nothing to do with how good you look on social media, or how cool you are that you're talking to spirits, or how charismatic you are. A lot of that fogs good research. You need to just be humble, be honest, be true. Okay? Understand that we don't know what we're doing, but there are some things worth looking into further. And the times that these anomalous things happen are usually when we're not trying to make them happen or observe them happen. People pick up the phone, they hear something they weren't expecting. People are recording stuff that has nothing to do with ITC. They record something that they weren't expecting. Okay? And that kind of goes along with your investigation. If you're going along with your investigation, usually you don't feel like you got anything during the day or the night. But when you go back to review, you catch something, and you weren't really expecting it. Okay, those are the times you want to look at it, and that's the way you want to understand the phenomena. It seems like it's an emergent phenomena that we can't understand the complexities of. And the more you focus on those complexities about this emergent phenomena, the less it will seem random and sporadic. Okay? So, Paul Browning will agree with me that trying to collect data and, lining them up when these, so-called EVPs and other anomalous, things happen, you're trying to make sense of why they're emerging. Okay, if there's some kind of precursor to the emergence of the phenomena, does the temperature raise? Does it lower? Does the barometric pressure change? Is there magnetic fields present? Is the weather has something to do with the time of year, the date? All these factors can mitigate or have something to do with the phenomena occurring or not occurring, and all that stuff is highly difficult, and very few researchers are going to want to do because they don't have the patience, they don't have the resource, they may not have the skill to do those things. But I believe that they're necessary. Okay, I'm just turning on a box, hearing a stream of just garbage, and just trying to make sense of it is audio pareidolia city. Okay, if you do not recognize that audio pareidolia is hugely prominent in most of the ITC research you see published on YouTube, Facebook, and all over the place, on Google, everywhere online, even published in books. Okay, there's a lot, there's fringy stuff out there, but there's some people that are like high in, high up in the rankings of politics even, that are actually doing this. I recently watched a YouTube video that I'm subscribed to. It's called New Thinking Aloud, and there was this Philippine or some type of foreign politician that is dabbling in it, and she's publishing stuff and writing books. And I thought that was interesting that she's willing to put herself out there. But I do have an example of why I use white noise. Real quick before I get into that, Paul Browning said something that was interesting. Correlation is not always causation, and that is true. Okay, if you can correlate something, it doesn't mean that it's the cause of it. It could be, let's just say, it could start with coincidence. You have to keep testing and replicate. Okay, since there's a magnetic field present at the time it happened, it doesn't mean that's what caused it. That just means that it's a property of the phenomena. So that's something cool to clarify. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead and read it. Do your job. Yes, it's believed that you have to give a medium from which they either modulate or manipulate, whatever word you want to use, and that is sound and basically true, because our medium when we speak is the atmosphere. We use the atmosphere and our vocal cords to manipulate the air and the atmosphere to speak, and we cause vibrations and compression waves in the air that our ears can pick up. So it's an interesting part of the theory that they need something, and it could be, dealing with the electronics. Is there anything else? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't unmute you.
You usually forget to mute me. Okay.
Anything else? Sorry, guys. She was just reading off a question.
Yes. Heather Elliott said, still on the fence with the SB7. It's interesting that when the SB7 sweeps, you get voices, phrases. But when it's not sweeping, there's nothing. Why is that? If there's an idea, is there to use the white noise?
I think I understand what they're saying.
I could have read it wrong. I'm sorry.
I think I understand what they're saying.
Okay.
They don't understand why you need to sweep if you're just trying to use the white noise, and I have to agree with that. Is that kind of what you thought she was saying, Jess?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's what I experiment with that a lot. Just use white noise, stick on one channel. You can use white noise generators. That is a good idea. The reason why they don't is they think that maybe certain frequencies they come through and it's not just one. It doesn't just deal with the white noise. So I would try both. Stick on one channel with white noise and then sweep and try to eliminate the RF that way. An easier thing to do, guys, so I don't have to keep muting you and unmuting you, is just mute yourselves if you're not speaking. And
I
we
live
should be
with Derek
good.
Schreiner. I mute myself.
Huh?
I live with Derek Schreiner. I have to mute myself.
Okay.
I already do mute myself.
Okay. Well, you should be skilled. Right?
That was on you. That was on you, Justin.
I mean, you should be skilled at muting yourselves then. I shouldn't have to rely on my button here.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Missy, anything over on Facebook that they're saying?
Paul Browning said, experiment. Do a ghost box session where questions are asked aloud, but responses are only written down by those present. Compare notes afterwards.
Good idea. And that's something that I always try to do. I only accept words that I want them to say, and you have to replicate that. Like, I want you to say apple now. Okay? If they don't say apple, that's not, something you can legitimize or validate. But if you're dealing with an intelligence, they can choose not to say anything. They can choose to say something else. So that could be problematic. But I see a lot of people writing stuff down and saying, okay, if you can see this, say it. And that would be a cool experiment to see if they can see what you're writing, or they can somehow telepathically find out. Anything else?
No, that's it for right now.
All right, Jessica.
Truth said some ITC phone apps use their phone's GPS to see where you're at, and it's close, accurate, given a false sense of communication.
Okay. They're saying the ITC app they use the GPS?
Yes. They said some of the ITC phone apps use the phone's GPS to see where you're located at.
And they use that information for what?
To give a false sense of communication.
That's interesting. I haven't researched that part of those apps. That seems shisty to me. What now?
Nothing.
Oh, okay.
I think that's it.
Okay. Go ahead. Hi, Josh. Everybody wave to Josh.
Wave to Josh Bender.
All right. You can go ahead and mute yourselves, and I will get back to you. All right. I want the ideas to keep coming, because if the people that are watching us live are not reading and taking all this in, they can watch and post and get all these ideas. Okay, because I like the ideas. I like hearing things I've never heard about, and I like out of the box thinking. That's my most favorite thing. Okay, I don't like seeing what you watch on TV and what's not working for a lot of people. There's a lot of people out there that are looking for some legitimacy in the ITC field, but they're just not getting it. The best advice I can give to you is do this yourself. Without doing this yourself, you will not find any legitimacy in it at all. Okay, if you're just relying on peer review and published results, I don't think that you're doing the research justice on your part. Okay, I think it's something that everybody basically has to do, and I know that may not be the best way to go at this point. I know there's a lot of people out there that just want to see respective and reputable people bringing back results saying, yes, I think this is legit. Okay. If we read in a textbook that Pluto's a planet and they say it's out there, I don't have to look at a telescope to believe that it's out there. No. You probably should look through a telescope to see if Pluto's out there if you have never done it. You just don't have to rely on the mass telling you that it's out there. I would suggest to you to do it yourself just to know from your observational standpoint that it's real. Okay? So that would be something to consider if you're not doing that right now. I've been working tirelessly to try to bring more legitimacy to the ITC research that I'm doing. I have several setups. One right now that I use is the RVPR, which we discuss in length all the time. It tests a hypothesis that the transducers in the microphones are manipulated either through electronic or electrical fields, magnetic fields, or variances in charge by whatever source that you can think of. The source is not known of EVP, but all we can do is try to validate the best we can anomalous voices on the recordings, on the coming across. And as far as the white noise stuff, I've totally eliminated all RF from our Spirit Box devices, and I just use the white noise. I sweep, I stay on one station, I do both. I in 2014 recorded a voice using white noise. It didn't come across the speaker, but when we played it back on another recorder, it was there. So I'm trying to replicate that. It's happened I think 5 times since 2014. So maybe once a year on average. It happens. And I know that's not promising, but at least it happens, right? At least you go out there and you can get something that should be physically impossible. And that's what keeps me going. Okay, the case from 2014 where the child died in the parents' home, and she was able to come across and tell her father that she loved him and be something I could not explain. That is important, okay? That's what makes it legitimate to me. But if you're watching this and if you're stuck in the mainstream, if you're stuck in Paradolia City and you're stuck in Huffland, you can get out. You can become something more, okay? You can become something that can contribute to the paranormal community. You can become something, fresh outside the box, okay? People are craving for that. And it's not like you're trying to appeal to a certain audience to get noticed, but people like me, Paul Browning, and many, many, many others that I work with are starving for something, a breakthrough, if not a breakthrough, just something to cross off the list, something legitimately worth our time to do, okay? So think about how we can validate anomalous phenomena, okay? Something that only happens sometimes, very rarely, but that's not supposed to happen, okay? According to DR60s and, Shack Hacks and ITC apps on your phone, the paranormal is normal. Every time you turn it on, stuff happens. Things come out of it, okay? The Ovilus, things come out of that thing all the time. There's nothing paranormal about those devices. It's normal. It just happens all over the place, right? So that right there should tell you, hey, wait a minute. There's something going on. I mean, Scott Carter, my skeptic in my group's waving his hands in the air. It's like, wait, it's supposed to be paranormal. It's supposed to only happen every once in a great while. And it's supposed to be, strange and we don't understand. And it's supposed to come out of left field and we weren't expecting it. Okay? That's the stuff we want to look at. And how do we get to looking at that stuff? Well, we got to brush away all this horse shit that we're dealing with. All this stuff that's sold to us by, paranormal retailers just to make a quick buck. Okay? The phonetic apps, I really want you to question that. Okay? Look up audio pareidolia and ask yourself, is this what's going on? Okay? I don't care if you reverse the speech, you reverse songs, and you still hear stuff come out of that. That's pareidolia, okay? How many of the songs that they reversed back in the day, like Pink Floyd and what was the other one? I think they did Simon and Garfunkel, and they did oh crap, I forget the other one, but the group that played Stairway to Heaven. What the hell is help me out here, girls? What's the name of that group? I got a brain fart. But anyway, that's what we're talking about is audio pareidolia. Okay, let's try to eliminate that. We got to eliminate all the stuff that will cause us to be fooled, be tricked. It's pretty common sense. Anything on Facebook, Missy, that's popping up? I know. Led Zeppelin. Thank you, Josh. There's a lot of songs I've heard in reverse from Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath that's supposed to have demonic things said. Okay, Missy, Facebook.
Paul Browning said data loggers are my thing and environmental control gear too.
Yeah. If you want some really cool, inexpensive data loggers built, PayPal Paul, and he'll build you one probably in 3 years because he works too much.
He also wants to know why ghosts don't talk to him in his car's radio.
Good question. I have heard and seen reports of stuff happening, but like I said, when that stuff happens, you don't expect it and it's rare. But I have heard of it. But like Paul's heard me say before, that was Paul's that said the thing about the car radio.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Just because it didn't happen to you doesn't mean it doesn't happen. So, there you go. Anything else, Missy?
No, that's about it right now.
Hi, Michelle. I see you. Jessica.
Okay, Bozard said, I am not an investigator, watcher, but do you think any or all these things can be set up to get a response that you want?
Yes.
Yeah, and Paraholic, I guess, has been replying back to him saying some devices and apps can be rigged.
Yes. That's why you want to keep it simple. You want to keep, use things that you can't be fooled by. Okay? A voice recorder. Okay? Sit down with a voice recorder. Hit record. Put it in a room where there's no sound. Cars honking outside, birds chirping outside, kids playing outside, people talking in the next room, fans going, computers going. All this stuff is bad. You want to try to control your environment. Okay? You can experiment. Introduce some white noise. Turn on your fan, and that's it. See if that's a medium to allow spirits to communicate. When you get into all this like complex, crap that's app developers make and all this stuff with the portal, the Huff portal, the thing is a disgrace, people. It's this speaker with a reverb guitar pedal on it and a noise cancellation pedal on it, and he sticks an app on it, and he's got these Christmas lights on it with crystals stuck on it. I mean, you might as well just use a Christmas tree with a radio in it to talk to the dead. I mean, no. Go ahead. I can't hear you.
Sorry.
It wasn't me this time.
It was me. Dumpster Dad said, what about the direct responses when you're saying things that can't be explained? Like when it says your full name of the investigator. So do you still think that's paranoia?
It could be. And the reason why I say it can be is if you're just listening to stuff come across, I was susceptible to this early on. I would say, well, what's my name? And I would hear what I thought it said as Justin. When I listened back on the recording, it may have sounded kind of like Justin, but you're trying to make sense of things. If you say, what's my name, your brain is focusing on hearing something come out of it. Say your name. Okay? That's what audio pareidolia is. So, in order to validate something is manipulating the device, I have developed setups to prove. Okay? It requires 2 spirit boxes synced. Okay? One of them is recorded on one track. The other one is recorded on the second track. You want only one to do the manipulation and the other one stay the same, because what should happen is all the snippets come around and say they sound exactly the same on both devices. And if you're interested in how to validate that, I can show you the device. I have Tech Talks on YouTube. Okay, so you've been in a crowd of people and you thought someone said your name and they said someone else's name, but you heard your name. That's audio pareidolia, and that can happen on those devices. Just it's common sense, in my opinion. Anything else, Jess?
Nope, I think that's it.
Missy.
Dan Everson said the car radio happened at the cemetery with him.
Ooh, I got to hear more about that. Can't leave me hanging, bro. Why were you at the cemetery? What did it say? What channel were you listening to? Were you flipping through channels? Where does it stay on? I want to know all that information. Anything else, though, on Facebook happening?
Nope.
I see, Matt. I'll go ahead and read this one, Jess. Swedenborg was a guy from the 1700s. This is a few... Go ahead and mute yourself, Missy. This is a few excerpts from a book he wrote on spirit communication, found that they use sources of noise to construct speech, including the sound of hammers. Whoa. And horses trotting. Whew. That sounds like there still could be a chance of pareidolia happening. I have studied pareidolia so much and to understand the brain so much that what you are hearing is highly subjective, okay? You can hear pretty much anything you want to hear most of the time when it comes to just random ass noises. We are trying to objectify things, and the more we rely on subjectivity, the less legitimate it is. And you can quote me on that. You can make a meme that says my fat head saying that if you'd like. Don't do it to Paul, though. He might rage kill you. Just joking. Anything else, guys, before...
Yeah.
Dumpster. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Jess. You go first.
Dumpster Dad said, we've had the portal say my wife's full name, including her maiden name in it. Said, hello, Kimberly Yoakum, if I pronounced that correctly. Very clear.
So what did it say again?
It said his wife's full name, including her maiden name.
Did they try to get that result again? I would ask. Did it just happen the one time when they asked?
Yeah, I'm not sure. It doesn't say.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. That's the kind of stuff that we're trying to get. I liked Paul Browning's question. The two side-by-side ghost boxes we're talking about. I'm going to try to dig that up. Data acquisition, voice phenomena. Let's see if it's this one. No, it's not. I'm trying to get the one where I got both spirit box going. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Okay. We're going to go to graphic screen. No. We're just going to swing this over to here in front of your guys' screen here real quick. Go ahead and mute yourself, girls. Okay. What you see here is a Tech Talk live stream I did on ITC Hypothesis, and this is what Paul Browning is talking about if you're on Facebook, and if you see his comments on the screen. This is the setup that I'm using here, but there's some things that I figured out that I need to change because of interference. But you have an SB7 on the left, SB7 on the right, running into the external channels 1 and 2 of the Tascam DR40. You sync them both at the same time. These are pretty much the only spirit boxes I have in my possession that you can sync and run at the same time. Now, there's going to be small variances on how each antenna picks up the channel, but it's pretty damn close. You record them and you're listening to them, and they should all be identical when you go to analyze them. Here, before I do that, let's go back to the screen. Now, the wireless transmitter you're seeing is running the spirit boxes over a wireless transmitter and into a separate recorder. Okay, and what that hypothesis is testing is, can the this one be manipulated in midair to that one? Okay, between the receiver and the transmitter. So there's two hypotheses here. Can RF be manipulated in the air? Okay, so if that's true, this right here and this receiver over here, there'll be a manipulation there, and you would be able to validate that. Now, if it's internally manipulated in the left and right spirit box, you should record it. Okay, when you're analyzing it, it only shows up on the one and not the other. So we'll go to the analysis part. Now, when you put it up in software, you're going to put up channel 1 and channel 2 beside each other, and you're going to test the second hypothesis, which is the wirelessly transmitted audio from one source to the other. So there's two there. So if you're interested in doing this, I have a whole video, and let's link the URL, guys. Let's just do that in the chat. Here you go. Now, there is a problem with this setup here, and I will talk about it right now. This transmitter and the receiver right here will bleed into your microphones. I was hearing the bleed over from the wireless transmission. So you're going to want to shield that, or put the transmitter and receiver in different spots. Okay? But that's the only thing that's wrong with this. So there you go, guys. That is my 5 years of trying to legitimize or test the hypotheses in two ways. So there you go. I love that Paul brought that up, and I'm definitely trying to do that. Anything else, girls, before we start wrapping this up?
Okay, the Paraholic said they're going to send you the file.
Okay.
And also, Dumpster's Dad said it's on their channel. That even with
You can link it, Dumpster Dad. You can link it in the chat.
Yeah, with that being said, that they're still skeptical, but they got it on video, and yes, they had it repeat, and it was calling him by his nickname.
Oh boy, that's even weirder, right? Yeah, I have been researching this for 5 years, and there are times where I'm just wondering, could this be what it's presuming to be? What's presumed to be? It's very foggy, but we need to keep trying and pushing. Now, I advocate that people use the setup that I just shown you, that Paul mentioned. It's the best way I can find to validate the two hypotheses. Are they messing with the spirit box internally, or are they messing with the RF coming over the air? Because all radio frequency is a carrier wave that's modulated to carry the audio that you want to hear, because the frequency spit out by the stations itself is too weak. They need this really super strong carrier wave to transmit over large distances. So that's why they use the carrier wave and the modulation. And there's amplitude modulation and frequency modulation. So if you really want to get into it and figure out if they're modulating it through amplitude or frequency, get with me if you don't understand those things, or Paul Browning may understand some of those things, okay? Because he's definitely looked into it once or twice, but he's not like huge into the radio stuff like I've done. So if there's not anything else, Missy, on Facebook that we need to address.
Daniel said it went from playing music, then it turned to static, faint voice at Walton Cemetery in a Fifi Lake, Michigan. He said he couldn't make out what was being said. He just happened to be strolling around, minding his own business, not investigating.
I wonder if that was interference. Like, how some stations can have other stations bleed in and interfere.
Right.
Sometimes what I've experienced is if there's like wireless security systems that's emitting some super crazy high EMF, it can really wreak havoc. And I do know that there's some crossover in bandwidth when it comes to frequency modulation, like FM radio. That's why you kind of hear like a few stations before and after the primary station, you will hear like a staticky version of your favorite station. That's because the bandwidth, it's a larger bandwidth. Now AM, you either get it on the channel, on the next channel it's not, it's different. So there's no bandwidth. So that's another reason why I don't like sweeping FM, because of the bandwidth issue. Even though, some people claim that if you get it, something that strings together in a few of the sweeps, you're not considering the bandwidth of some stations. And some stations have a larger bandwidth, where some other stations may have a narrower bandwidth. Anything else, Missy?
Antonio Guerreri said, is the Ghost Box or Ghost Adventures truly different? It seems they get instant results. I'm curious.
It's not different, and that's called video editing. Okay? Video editing will allow you to present anything that you record in any way you would like. You can cut out what you don't want them to see and put in what you want them to see. Okay? So when you're trying to look for media that's publishing so-called ITC research, look for unedited stuff. I have a lot of stuff that I put up that's unedited. And of course we do a lot of stuff that's edited, but this year we don't put a lot of ITC research in our videos, do we, Missy? I know we did at the Elizabeth's grave.
Right.
And the Sanford building, there was some weird stuff going on with the...
Right.
I mean, that was strange.
Yeah.
I've never seen that happen. But yeah, we really just try to not rely on it so much. We want to rely on much other legitimate things like, EVP, other things. Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Jessica?
Nope.
All right. Thank you, girls. Again, you are a wonderful help to me. Without you, at this simultaneous stream, my head would explode.
We wouldn't want that to happen.
Oh, God. I think it's already happened. It's like a delayed reaction. It's happened, but the explosion is like a delayed reaction, I think. But you guys are a great help to me. You did wonderful tonight, and stay on the video call, because your better halves need to jump on the call with me when you discuss filming for this weekend. But you guys go ahead and mute yourselves, and
Okay.
I'll put an end to this thing. All right, guys. I mean, how do I express my gratitude and my appreciation for you guys tuning in and giving me an hour of your life? There is no words that I have to say thank you for that. It's wonderful to talk to you about what I'm passionate about. We have all lost people that mean something to us. We all care about life after death research. It's very, very important to me and many, many others in the field. Okay, guys? So thank you very much for tuning in. A lot of you tune in every week, and I appreciate that. But if you want to keep this content here to stay, if you want to see it get better, you want to see it grow and be more, you can do that. Now, this is where I pitch the Patreon, okay? Without these names on the screen, what you're seeing each and every week is not possible, okay? Christy Brown, Clay Borman, Matthew Jackson, Matt Benton, Danette Goldtrip, Gwendolyn Guthrie, Scott Stewart, Jessica Bias, RJ Murphy, Liz Coy, and Bill Davis are making this content possible. They are driving it. We're getting more patrons. Some of them pledge $1, some of them pledge $25. I mean, Clay Borman has donated $250 since he started to this, not only to these live streams, but all the paranormal research that we're doing. It's not just about the live streams, it's about the research. There is a lot of things that we can't afford to build right now to test scientific principles with. One of them being the cloud chamber. You can read about that at patreon.com/support interface death. The links are in the cards up in the upper right. The link is in the description. If you want to become part of our family and become part of our paranormal work, check that out. That's great. But thanks for our Patreons. I really appreciate it. I'm going to leave it there, guys. ITC legitimacy. There's a lot of people out there that are stamping out all the legitimacy of it. But there is some validation and some things to consider and things to look forward to as far as research goes. So don't quit. Don't throw down your apps and your devices. Just try to ask yourself, hey, am I trying to objectify what I do? Okay? If you need my help, I'm here for you. You can email me. You can call me. You can message me anytime. I can help you with any kind of technical support. I'll reach out to others if I don't know the answers to it, and I will find out everything I need to to do to help you. So you guys have a good evening. Tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, we have Necromancer on. We have a gentleman named Dennis S. Locke. He is a very interesting person. You can check out that bio and that description on the Necromancer, a live stream event. So I'd like to see you tune in tomorrow night. This weekend we do Thornhaven Manor in Indiana. It is a very cool investigation. We're going to live stream there. We're going to do a whole bunch of stuff. And until then, I will see you on the next one, guys. Stick around for the video promotions. If you have not seen all the video promotions out, Old Blackford County Jail is available for rent, digital purchase, and Blu-ray. Okay, so check out those links. Check out these videos. You are in my heart. I love you all very much. I will see you next time.